Available in paperback at e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. An Oklahoma father allegedly shot and murdered his wife and 3 of his children before taking his own life.
Jess, many of the neighbors behind me tell me they were close with the Candy family. Whether it was a small wave in passing or the kids coming over to play with pets, they would have never expected Jonathan Candy would kill his family.
Him and his kids seemed like they always got along. He just was just a family man.
Neighbors tell me Tuesday they're shocked and puzzled by a mass murder on their street. That a neighborhood massacre on Monday where Jonathan Candy killed his wife and 3 of his kids before turning the gun on himself leaves them wondering what went wrong.
I never expected this.
Police revealed Tuesday it all started when Jonathan Candy got in a fight with his wife Lindsay and shot her multiple times. He then went through the rest of the house, killing 3 of his 4 sons, Dylan, Ethan, and Lucas.
We were just in total shock.
Yeah.
The kids were real friendly. Everybody here loved the kids. Swam here at his house regularly. They played with my dog.
Michael Bertram lives just across the street and says he was friends with Jonathan. Michael says Jonathan had told him he suffered from depression.
If somebody needed something and he had a shop in the back, I needed something welded one day, called him up. He says, yeah, I'll do it for you. That's the kind of person he was.
Jonathan worked as a part-time employee for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and friends and neighbors tell us he was at the playoff game Sunday night just hours before opening fire. Another family on the street said they didn't want to go on camera, but said their kids were close with the Candy family and are obviously taking the loss hard. The entire neighborhood left stunned.
I just questioned everything, something was going on behind scenes that no one knew.
Oklahoma City police tell us they have no calls for domestic abuse to this address behind me and nothing in their system on either of the Candys. In Yukon, Colby Terrell, KOCO 5 News.
Now, in this alleged incident that took place in Oklahoma City, 42-year-old Jonathan Candy allegedly got into an argument with his 39-year-old wife, Lindsay Candy, and after he got into this argument with his wife, Jonathan Candy allegedly shot and killed his wife, and then allegedly went to hunt down all 3 of 4 of his sons, 18-year-old Dylan Candy, 14-year-old Ethan Candy, and 12-year-old son Lucas Candy, before taking his own life. And after Jonathan Candy allegedly took his own life, a 10-year-old son came up out of his room in the morning, and as he came out of his room in the morning, he saw his entire family dead in front of him, and that's when he called 911. And after he called 911, they saw all of the bodies of this family and quickly took this child away as they did their investigation. Now, the Oklahoma City police are seeing the actions of Jonathan Candy as an isolated incident and believe that they have no motive for murder. But when I take a critical examination of the alleged actions of Jonathan Candy, they definitely fit the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. And when I look at Jonathan Candy's actions, they show me what happens with many beta males who live in what I call the rose-colored reality in my book, The Man Crisis. Now, with many beta males, they oftentimes appear to be harmless, like Jonathan Candy was, because Jonathan Candy basically was a guy who was out here making it look like he was the ideal husband, and he had no history or record of domestic violence, and that was all meant to fit into the smooth world that he had created, where he would have no problems, conflicts, or obstacles. And to his neighbors, he appeared to be one of the nicest guys out here. However, when it came to Jonathan Candy, he basically was one of these beta males who was seething and simmering and boiling in a lot of anger and frustration, as it related to the state of his life. And as he was simmering, seething, and boiling in anger as related to the state of his life, no one knew how angry this man was, even though he had everything. I mean, he was working for the Oklahoma City Thunder part-time. He had a nice home. He had four children and was doing very well. But in his world, he was extremely frustrated, extremely angry, and as he seethed and boiled in that anger, most people didn't know that this man wasn't just a ticking time bomb, because after the COVID-19 lockdowns, a lot of beta males went from being ticking time bombs to becoming landmines all across this country. And I believe it possibly was something that his wife possibly said in that argument that tripped the trigger on that landmine that led to Jonathan Candy winding up exploding in a rage. And as he exploded in this rage, he wound up allegedly taking this firearm, shooting and killing his wife, and then systematically hunting down 3 of his 4 sons. And that action of hunting down those 3 of those 4 sons basically was an action that showed how much anger and contempt he had for his family, because again, with many beta males, they do not live in our world. Yes, on the outside they will look like, again, the nicest guy on the outside, but in the inside, many of these men are living in that rose-colored reality. And as they live in that rose-colored reality, they have 2 worlds going on. They have the smooth world with the real world, where everything is looking good, but they go to a place I call the secret world to express their natural manhood and masculinity that they want to express. And in that world, they are filled with all of this anger and all of this contempt for people. And all it takes is a triggering of anger for those individuals to explode in this rage that they have had in the secret world for so many years. And that's what I believe happened here with Jonathan Candy. I believe what happened with Jonathan Candy is that he basically was seething and had a lot of anger towards his wife and his children. And he had all of this anger towards his wife and his children. He was seething with anger regarding them, and basically so angry at them that he held it on the inside. And all it took was this argument with his wife to basically trigger that anger. And as that anger got triggered, he exploded in this rage, where he participated in one of the most extreme acts as related to the spectrum of violent behaviors that a beta male can participate in. Because when it comes to the beta male, they harbor this anger for many years, and it packs down like dynamite. And as it packs down like TNT, this anger basically winds up exploding to the point where they look to not only hurt the people around them that they are frustrated about, but destroy the world around them. And as they participate in this violence, what they do is they wind up destroying the lives of all of those around them. And that's what Jonathan Candy did as related to the anger and frustration that he had at his wife and his children, or his job. I mean, he was holding all of this anger in, and eventually he just released it in an explosion of rage. And as he released it in this explosion of rage, he eventually wound up exploding with this rage, where he wound up participating in this extreme act of violence. And as he participated in this extreme act of violence, he took the lives of his wife and 3 of his children before taking his own life, an action that showed that he was just frustrated about the state of his life and the direction of his life, and also being held accountable for his crime. So some people want to say that Jonathan Candy suffered from depression. I don't know if that's the case, but I know how beta males behave. And when it comes to the beta male, when the pressures of life get too hard, when the pressures of life get to be too much, what these men do, instead of working through their emotions by, yes, you have these feelings of frustration and these feelings of stress, What these men do is not talk about their issues or work through their issues. What they do is hold this anger inside of them, and this anger again gets packed down like TNT, which with each little slight that makes them upset, and with every slight that makes them upset, what these men do eventually is that it takes one little spark to trigger some anger, and that's what leads to this atomic explosion, an atomic explosion that can take the lives of all of the people around them. And that's basically what happened here with Jonathan Candy, that led to him going on this shooting rampage, where he looked to express his contempt for his family by murdering all of his family, and then express his frustration about the state of his life by taking his life and in a suicide after murdering his entire family. Now, what's even scarier than a guy like Jonathan Candy is the fact that he's not just the only one out there. No, due to the dysfunctional way we have been raising boys to become men, there are hundreds of millions of Jonathan Candys out there, and the scary part about these kinds of males is that it's not a question of if these guys are going to go off, it's a matter of when they're going to go off. And usually when these guys go off, it's a surprise to everyone and a shock to everyone, like the people in that Oklahoma City neighborhood who thought about this guy who had never had an incident of domestic violence. However, all it takes again for these kinds of men to explode in rage is just one minor incident, and it could be the least little thing, from there not being any ranch dressing at the Arby's, or something like they ran out of everything bagels at the deli, or even something as simple as somebody being on the freeway and getting cut off. All it takes is just one thing to trigger the anger in these men, and they'll act impulsively without ever critically thinking about the consequences of their actions. And that's what puts everybody in danger who is around one of these beta males. What makes it dangerous for everyone around a beta male is you don't know if this guy is going to go off or what he's going to do when he goes off, because his behavior can go from having a screaming fit to, as related to the mildness of his incident, to him going to look to participate in extreme acts of violence like mass shootings, or even incidents like murdering an entire family. That's the scariest part about this man crisis that no one wants to acknowledge, because many Americans want to live in their smooth world where they believe that most of these beta males are harmless. But we really have a serious problem in this country. We have a serious problem in this country because we have beta males, again, over 100 million of them from 2 to 3 generations of men since the days of the baby boomers, and because that was the time we had the rise of the feminist movement. And with the rise of the feminist movement, we had parents who were not actively involved in raising their boys to become men. And that's what led to all of these boys winding up becoming men in crisis who are creating a clear and present danger because of the increase in frequency of this violence, an increase in frequency of violence that's going on across the country. But no one wants to talk about this man crisis or talk about the way we raise boys to become men, because corporate America doesn't want us to change the way we parent, because they want to keep making money off workers. They want to keep making money off workers, not understanding that if we don't deal with the health of our boys we won't have any men to work in corporate America. No, we will all be walking on eggshells and pins and needles, fearing that one of these beta males will become a man in crisis and being a clear and present danger. Again, nobody wants to do anything about this, because that means we have to change the way we live life. It means we have to change the way we work here in America. It means we have to change the way we raise families. It means we have to go out and change the way we do things. And again, Americans are too proud to admit we have a problem, and that's why we continue to see incidents like this. And what's sad is, as we see more incidents like this, we don't have anyone out here looking to connect dots as related to all of these incidents the way I have been connecting dots as related to this incident and this frequency of violence that has escalated over the last 60 years, because over the last 60 years, there's a clear pattern to show that the reason why we are seeing this increase in frequency of violent incidents like this is due to the way we have raised boys to become men in this country. The way we have raised boys to become men are not creating functional men, because our society thinks a functional man is somebody who just has a job and a family, like Jonathan Candy. But the whole thing is, if you have a man who doesn't know how to deal with his feelings, doesn't know how to work through his processes, doesn't know how to navigate through his emotions, does not know how to critically think or get conflict resolution, or know how to understand that it's okay to concede and admit that you do need help, that's where we get the man crisis as part of this country. And again, that crisis basically puts hundreds of millions of lives in jeopardy every day, because it's like walking on eggshells, not knowing when you're going to trigger a landmine with one of these beta males. And it's one of the things that's scariest about them is you never know what can make these guys lose it, and what can make them lose it can basically make you lose your life. That's the scariest part about dealing with beta males. You never know when you're having a social interaction with this man that could lead to you winding up becoming in a situation when you are in crisis. Now, if you want to learn more about what leads to beta males winding up becoming a danger to everyone and themselves due to the dysfunctional way they have been raised, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com. in paperback and Kindle format. You can also pick up The Man Crisis in digital format at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and in digital format. And you can also find it in paperback at online retailers like Barnes & Noble and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. That's all. And if you want to see me make more videos about The Man Crisis, you can send a donation to the Patreon, PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Illuminati, the man who rules the world, takes on the head of the global elite in this all-new action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Illuminati in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.